She had not planned to stop here tonight. She was 61 years old, tired from a 14-hour travel day, carrying the kind of quiet exhaustion that only comes from pouring yourself into something for decades. The Caldwell Grand on Meridian Avenue stood exactly as she had left it. Warm golden lights spilling through the glass doors, the city quiet around it. The kind of building that announced itself without trying. She had built this place, not managed it, not worked at it, built it. From a single failing property in Memphis into a portfolio of 14 hotels, across 9 states over 32 years. And tonight, with her granddaughter asleep on her shoulder and nothing announcing who she was, she pushed through the revolving door and stepped inside. Her granddaughter was 7 years old and weighed almost nothing. But after 3 weeks apart, Vivian would have carried her twice the distance without complaint. Naomi had her mother's eyelashes and her grandmother's stubbornness, and she was currently using Vivian's left shoulder as a pillow, her small arms loosely wrapped around her neck. A worn stuffed elephant named Pearl tucked under her chin. Vivian crossed the lobby floor slowly, mindful of Naomi's weight, and approached the front desk. She had a practice she had maintained for 32 years. When she visited her properties, she came the way her guests came, unannounced, dressed for comfort, carrying nothing that announced who she was. Plain coat, worn jeans, comfortable shoes. It was the only honest way to see what was actually happening when no one was performing for the owner. Her mother had spent 27 years working housekeeping in a hotel that looked very much like this one. She came home every night with her hands red from the cleaning products and a particular silence that took an hour before it lifted. She told Vivian once, Vivian was maybe 12 at the time, that the way a place treats the people it thinks are invisible tells you everything about what it actually values. Not the guests in the suites, the housekeeper in the hallway, the bellman nobody tips, the woman at the counter who doesn't look like the brochure. Vivian had carried that sentence the entire length of her career. The clerk was in his early 30s, well-groomed. His name tag read Brandon. He had the practiced surface-level polish of someone who understood the performance of hospitality without having fully internalized its purpose. He looked up as she approached, and something shifted in his expression. It was not dramatic. It was not a sneer. It was smaller than that, and somehow worse, the quiet recalibration of a person whose eyes have delivered information and whose brain has already processed what to do with it. He looked at the coat. He looked at the sleeping child. He returned to his screen. Good evening, Vivian said. I need a room for tonight. One night, 2 guests. Nothing elaborate, a standard room is fine. Brandon kept his eyes on his screen for a moment longer than necessary. Then he leaned forward slightly and said, not cruelly, but with the particular quiet certainty of someone who believes humiliation lands softer when it is delivered calmly. I am sorry, ma'am. This establishment isn't really suited for walk-ins. We are fully booked tonight, and we typically don't accommodate requests at this hour. Vivian looked at him steadily. I am not confused, she said. I am asking for a room. That is all. I understand. But I am afraid there is nothing available. There are several other options in the area that might be a better fit. He had not checked the system. He had not looked at the availability screen. He had looked at her and made a determination before she finished her sentence. If you have ever walked into a room and felt the temperature change before you said a word, felt eyes measure you, and find you wanting before you had the chance to prove anything, then you already know exactly what Vivian was standing inside of right now. And before we go further, let us know in the comments where you are watching from. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Vivian said nothing for a moment. She had learned over 61 years that silence in moments like this is not passivity. It is inventory. She was cataloging what she was seeing, not for her own sake, but because she was the person responsible for what happened here, and she needed to see all of it clearly. She did not have to wait long to see more. 3 minutes after Brandon told her there was nothing available, the front door opened behind her. A couple walked in. The man wore a blazer. The woman wore a coat that Vivian recognized, a brand she knew the price of, because she had bought it herself once and returned it, because she preferred to spend money on things that didn't announce themselves. They moved with the easy confidence of people who had never once been made to feel, not through words but through the practiced language of other people's assumptions, that they might not belong somewhere. Brandon's whole posture changed. His shoulders came up. His smile arrived fast and genuine. "Welcome to the Caldwell Grand. How can I help you this evening?" They had no reservation. In 4 minutes he had found them a room, processed their card, and handed over 2 key cards with a warmth that reached the far end of the counter. Vivian watched every second of it. She did not say anything. She did not need to. The message had been delivered without a single word, and both people in that lobby understood it perfectly, even if only one of them was willing to admit it. Naomi stirred against her shoulder. "Grandma?" Her voice came out soft and half asleep, muffled against Vivian's coat. "Are we at the hotel yet?" Vivian tightened her arm around her. "We are here, baby. Just give me a minute." She turned back to the desk. Her voice was calm the way very still water is calm. Not because nothing is happening beneath it, but because whatever is happening has not yet decided to surface. "I would like to speak with your manager on duty, please." His name was Gerald. He arrived at the desk within 2 minutes, mid-50s, a suit that said he understood authority as something you maintained through appearances, and an expression that told Vivian he had already been briefed and had already reached a conclusion before he stepped into the conversation. That was the thing about men like Gerald. They did not come to situations like this with curiosity. They came with decisions already made, looking only for the language to deliver them. "Ma'am," he said, positioning himself beside Brandon in a way that made the geometry clear. 2 of them on one side, Vivian and the sleeping child on the other. "I understand there has been some confusion. My staff has explained our situation. I am afraid there is nothing further we can do for you this evening." "There is no confusion," Vivian said. "I watched your staff book a room for a walk-in couple while telling me there was nothing available. I am asking you to explain that." Gerald's expression did not crack. It hardened. "Our staff exercises professional judgment. I stand behind that." Vivian looked at him for a long moment. "Professional judgment," she repeated. "That is correct." She did not raise her voice. She did not lean in. She simply looked at him with the calm of a woman who has spent 3 decades in rooms where people underestimated her and has long since decided that she does not need to perform her authority for anyone. "I would like your full name and your exact title, please." Gerald provided both, without warmth. Vivian noted them the way she noted everything, quietly, completely, without making a show of it. Then she stepped back from the desk and found a seat in the lobby. She was not finished. She was just beginning. Gerald did not return to the back office. He positioned himself near the front desk, arms folded, watching Vivian, the way a man watches something he has decided is a problem and is building himself up to remove. Vivian noticed the woman at the concierge desk, Simone, who had gone very still, her hands not moving, her eyes fixed on the surface in front of her. She noticed the guests at the bar who had grown quieter, their attention drifting toward her without fully committing to it. The lobby had developed a particular kind of tension that Vivian recognized, not from her career, but from her life. It was the tension of a room full of people who sense something is wrong but are waiting for someone else to name it first. Gerald crossed the floor. "Ma'am," he said, "I have given you some time, and I want to be direct. This is a private establishment. We have explained that we cannot accommodate you tonight and continuing to remain in the lobby is not something we are going to permit." "I am sitting in a chair," Vivian said evenly. "I have not raised my voice. I have not caused any disruption, and I have not done anything that gives you grounds to remove me." "I am not asking," Gerald said. Naomi was awake. No one had noticed the exact moment it happened. The way children come back to consciousness all at once. Not gradually, But she was awake now, sitting up against Vivian's arm, blinking into the light, taking in the lobby, the guards, the tension in her grandmother's body, and Gerald's expression in a single sweep. She clutched Pearl to her chest and looked at Gerald with the frank, unguarded attention of a child who has not yet learned to pretend she doesn't see what she sees. "Why are you making us leave?" she asked. Her voice was clear and unhurried, and it went further than she intended, reaching the guests at the bar, the couple near the elevator, Simone at the concierge desk. Gerald did not answer her. He looked at Vivian instead, which was its own kind of answer. Naomi looked at her grandmother, then back at Gerald, working through it the way a 7-year-old works, through things that simply do not add up. "Isn't their job to help people?" she said. "Why don't they want to help us?" The question had no accusation in it. It was entirely sincere, and sincere questions, asked clearly in quiet rooms, have a way of landing harder than anything rehearsed. The couple by the elevator had both turned. The guests at the bar were no longer looking elsewhere. Even one of the security guards had shifted his weight in a way that said something in him was not comfortable with where he was standing. Gerald's expression did not change, but something beneath it had. The particular irritation of a man who has lost control of the room and whose response to that is to push harder. "This has gone on long enough," he said. He looked at the guards. "Please escort them out." Vivian stood slowly, keeping Naomi close. She did not move toward the door. She reached into her coat pocket and took out her phone. She made a call. It lasted 40 seconds. 4 sentences. A pause. 2 words in response. She put the phone away. "Grandma," Naomi said quietly, just for her. "Do we have to go?" Vivian looked down at her and said in the voice she used when she needed her granddaughter to feel completely safe, "No, baby. We are not going anywhere tonight." Gerald stepped forward, his patience fully exhausted. "Ma'am, I am telling you for the last." The elevator chimed. It was a small sound, the kind the lobby produced dozens of times a night without anyone noticing. Every person in that room noticed this one. The doors opened. Carol Reeves stepped out, early 60s, silver locks, dark blazer, moving with the contained urgency of someone who understood exactly what she was walking into and why it could not wait. She was the president of Caldwell Hospitality and had been with Vivian for 24 years. Behind her were 2 members of the executive team, both visibly aware of the weight of what they were walking into. Carol crossed the lobby directly to Vivian. She did not look at Gerald. She did not look at Brandon. She looked at Vivian the way a person looks at someone they have just realized they have failed. And she stopped in front of her and said with a formality that carried genuine weight, "Mrs. Caldwell, I am so sorry you were kept waiting." The lobby went silent. Not dramatically, the way rooms do in real life. One sound at a time, until the only thing left was the faint jazz from the bar, which had never sounded more wrong for the occasion. Carol turned to face the room. Her voice was even and quiet, which somehow made it worse than if she had shouted. "This is Vivian Caldwell. She is the founder and sole owner of Caldwell Hospitality. She owns this hotel. She owns the chairs you are standing next to, the uniforms you are wearing, and the contracts that determine whether you come to work tomorrow." She let that sit for exactly 1 breath. "I want everyone in this room to be very clear about what happened here tonight." Brandon had gone the color of the marble counter. Gerald had not moved, standing in the center of the lobby, with the particular stillness of a man whose entire understanding of the situation has just been restructured, and who has not yet worked out how to exist inside the new version of it. Naomi looked up at Carol, then at her grandmother. She pulled Pearl a little tighter and leaned into Vivian's side. "Grandma," she whispered, "you know her?" Vivian looked down at her, and for the first time since they had walked through those revolving doors, something in her face softened completely. She put her arm around Naomi's shoulders and pulled her close. "Yeah, baby," she said. "I know her." Nobody moved. That was what Vivian noticed most, the complete absence of motion in a room that had just minutes ago been pushing towards something loud and certain. Gerald attempted a sentence. It didn't make it far. Vivian looked at him, not with triumph, not with the sharp satisfaction of a woman who has won something, but with the quiet focus of someone who has spent a lifetime understanding what moments like this actually require. "You are right," she said. "You did not know who I was. That is exactly the point." Her voice carried without effort, not because she raised it, but because everything else had gone quiet. "What you did tonight, you did because you looked at me and decided I was not worth the standard. Not because of anything I said or did, because of what I looked like when I walked through that door. And you did it in front of my granddaughter." She looked at him steadily and continued. "My mother worked housekeeping in a hotel like this one for 27 years. She came home every night carrying something that never fully left her. The weight of being dismissed by people who had already decided she didn't matter before she opened her mouth. I built this company because I believed that did not have to be the way things work. That the person standing at your desk deserves dignity before they have proven a single thing to you. Not after you have approved of their code. Before." She looked at Carol, who gave a short nod. "Gerald, you are terminated effective immediately." Gerald straightened his jacket. Once, the small automatic gesture of a man trying to preserve the last intact piece of his dignity, and walked toward the back office without another word. Vivian turned to Brandon. "You made a decision tonight based on how someone looked. I want you to sit with what that means, not what it cost you professionally, but what it actually feels like to be on the other side of it. I am not ending your career here, but tonight cannot happen again. Not to anyone." Brandon nodded. Small, but real. She crossed to the concierge desk where Simone had been standing motionless through all of it. "You saw it," Vivian said quietly. "You knew something was wrong, and the structure here made it almost impossible for you to act. That is a failure of leadership, not of character. Starting tomorrow, you are moving into a supervisory role in guest services. Because I need people in positions where they can act on what they know is right." Simone met her eyes. "I will not let you down." "I know," Vivian said simply. She turned back to face the room one last time. "Every person who walks through our doors gets treated with respect. Not based on what they are wearing. Not based on what they look like. Not based on whether they seem like they belong. Every person, every time, without exception. That is what this company is. That is what it has always been. And that is what it will remain." Then Naomi tugged once on her hand. "Grandma," she said, with the absolute uncomplicated sincerity that only a 7-year-old can deliver, "can we get our room now? I am really tired." It moved through the room like something released, not quite laughter, but something adjacent to it. The kind of sound a group of people makes when tension finally finds somewhere to go. Vivian looked down at her granddaughter and felt the thing that had been sitting in her chest all evening finally shift. "Yeah, baby," she said. "We are getting our room." 3 months later, on a quiet Wednesday morning, a family came through the revolving doors of the Caldwell Grand. 2 parents, travel-worn, dressed for comfort rather than impressions, with 2 young kids trailing behind them, one dragging an overstuffed backpack and refusing all offers of help with the absolute conviction of a child who has decided. This is a matter of principle. Simone was at the front of the house when they arrived. She crossed the lobby to meet them before they reached the desk. She introduced herself by name and asked how she could make their stay easy. She did not look at their luggage or their shoes. She looked at them, at the tired eyes, the stubborn kid, and she smiled the way people smile when they genuinely mean it. Within 2 minutes, the parents' shoulders had come down. Within 5, even the kid with the backpack had let someone take it from him. In the far corner of the lobby, Vivian stood with Naomi beside her. She had come for a scheduled visit this time. She had been there 10 minutes and had not announced herself to the floor because she wanted to see this first. Just the ordinary work of the place. The everyday version of what she had spent her life trying to build. Naomi watched Simone lead the family toward the desk. Watched the kids light up when Simone said something that made them laugh. Then she looked up at her grandmother. Is that what it is supposed to look like? Vivian watched the family settle in. Watched the tired parents exhale. Watched the kid with the backpack finally let it go. Yeah, baby, she said. That is exactly what it is supposed to look like. Naomi considered this with the quiet thoroughness she brought to most things. Then she nodded once, tucked Pearl under her arm, and reached up to take her grandmother's hand. Vivian held it, and they stood there together in the corner of the lobby she had built, watching the place finally become what she had always meant it to be. Every person deserves to be treated with dignity before they prove anything, before you decide whether they belong. That is not just good business. That is simply what is right. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and come back next week. We have more stories just like this one waiting for you.